what's funny is every time I think I've run out of material, I get somebody, a helpful person, coming along giving me more things that I can make videos about. This guy's name is Jurist, J-U-R-I-S-T, and he commented on my video 11 reasons why I reject Christianity, and his comments are amazing. So I'm going to go over there and pull up his little thing and read his examples to you, or his responses to my reasons why I reject Christianity. Try not to mock this fellow, because he has obviously put a great deal of thought into his responses. And I'm going to try to read them straight, because I tend to interject so much that you don't get the gist of the guy's mind, you know, the writer's mind at work, okay? I do have to point out, though, that this person, Jurist, J-U-R-I-S-T, talks about the evidence for Eden and evidence basically in general, and it's kind of amusing because or later on he talks about the evidence for supporting the Bible. That's it. But right off from the start, he identifies himself as a new earth creationist. So my opinion is, a person like this talking about archaeology? Really? Anyway, okay, answer to number 1. The flood. Now I'm going to try to do this without having my list up, okay? I'm just going to try to read this, and I know the first number 1 is there's no evidence for Adam and Eve or Eden. Okay. So, answer to number 1. The flood wiped out Eden. If you did a little research, you would find out that genetic research shows that there was an Adam and Eve, or there was an Adam, and he lived only 6,000 years ago. That is what the science teaches. It doesn't just say science, he says the science, and he capitalizes all the letters in the word science teaches. That is what the science teaches. The Pope is a dope. If there is no sin, then there is no standard to judge between right and wrong. So how do you know you are doing good you claim you are doing? You are only stealing off Christianity in order to make such a statement, since if there is no God, then there is no such thing as right or wrong. Answer to 2. How do you know you are doing wrong or right? The historical evidence for Jesus is overwhelming. I'm sorry. Okay. Every day you acknowledge his existence when you look at the date. He split time in half. You are joking, right? The whole world celebrates Christmas and Easter. Now Joseph Smith, every weight and measure he mentions is made up. Every denomination of coin. There has never been anything mentioned in his book ever found by archeologists. Genetic testing shows that the Indians aren't Jewish. The Bible is just the opposite. Well, I have to agree with him about the Book of Mormon and the notion that the lost tribe of Israel are the Indians, or we should say Native Americans. Okay, the Bible is just the opposite. Answer to 3. Love gives of itself. That is what love or doing good is. So you don't agree with doing good. Answer to 4. How do you know you are doing good? Without God, you can't justify what you are doing is good or not. The only reason you can even decide that something is good or not is because you are stealing from the biblical God. Oh my gosh, it's just there's so many things I want to say. I want to explode, but this will be a really long video because this is a really long message if I do that. So, okay. Answer to 5. It says both were made in God's image. That's in Genesis 1, and it's talking about Lilith, not Eve. Genesis 2 is talking about Eve. Try to compare the two of them, please. It says both were made in God's image. It was just Eve was taken from Adam. God is personal and relational. So he gave Adam someone to have a personal relationship with. Why would men make up a religion? Really? That is in your estimation to keep and abuse women or dominate them and put in the rules that if you, the man, commit adultery, you will be stoned to death. Why wouldn't it be legal or good to sexually use them? It is Christianity and Christians who fight against porno. It's what he wrote, porno. Which destroys women and creates a culture that wants to dominate women. Why is it that they are the only ones? Really? Christians are the only ones who have something against porno? I think you mean pornography, I guess. Anyway, why is it they're the only ones? Really, they're the only ones. Okay, I'm interjecting. Pull it back, Diane. Okay, keep reading. Answer to 6. It only encourages that in your mind. There is no global crisis. Okay, I'm trying to withhold the face palm that wants to happen right now. There is no global crisis. It's people like this who are in denial that is making the global crisis worse. Speciesism? Why would it be wrong under your there is no God worldview? Use animals for food and clothing. You say the after all. God, can this guy not write? This guy writes. Shh. Maybe he's from a different country. You say the after all we are just animals too. We are. Animals use and eat each other every day, and 90% of all the species that ever lived died in the flood. And some didn't make it after the ark either. Imagine having your entire worldview based on the Bible. Oh God, okay. Answer to 7. Hell is, this is the warm and fuzzy description of hell that Christians like to use today. Hell is a place where God is not. God is everywhere. God made hell. But the Bible clearly states that God is everywhere. So please explain to me how, if God made hell and God is everywhere, how is he not in hell? Anyway, hell is a place where God is not. If God just puts you and the murderer and the rapist in some nice cozy place forever, then everyone would hurt everyone else for all eternity. The torture may be figurative, of course it is, right? To you, an idea of how bad it will be. I don't think so. I think it is so you can think, or you would be able to get pleasure from mentally reliving all of your sins, just like murders get pleasure in court when they hear the retelling of their crimes. Really? You actually think murderers get pleasure from hearing the retelling of their crimes? How would you know this? Have you been a murderer in court? Hearing them recount your crimes? How would you know what murderers are thinking when they're sitting in a courtroom hearing their crimes being listed out? How would you know they're getting pleasure, unless you were actually one of them, or somehow you managed to get inside their head and know what they were thinking. Unbelievable. It is a place that you want to go, and God will give you what you want. This is still talking about hell. You don't want to be with Him for all the reasons you are listing, and He is loving enough to give you what you want. Oh, I'm sorry, He says, loving enough to give you your wish. Isn't that a special? What a warm and fuzzy way of looking at hell. Yeah. Sure. I think I might become a Christian after reading this guy. Answer to 8. Here we go. There is more archaeology to support the Bible than any book in history. Read Evidence That Demands a Verdict by Josh McDowell. It was written by a guy who thought just like you in college, so he set out to prove this Bible and Jesus stuff was all made up. The more he investigated, the more he found out it was true. Just like any other book, you need to know the context. And the parents didn't just have the right to take the kid out back and stone them with the relatives at the family reunion. Okay, before I continue reading this guy, I'm going to interject a little bit about Josh McDowell. Okay, so I'm interjecting a little bit here from an article that I looked up about various Christian apologists, and this was not easy, by the way. There were pages and pages of websites about Josh McDowell, who is like, major. He's Josh McDowell Ministries. Gotta turn off my alarm. Okay, Ministries, right? So this is like major Christian guy who, oh yes, Christians flock to, and there's, I think websites appear in order on the internet, having to do with their popularity, and I think there's so many Christians desperate for reassurance that their beliefs are true that these websites are very popular. But anyway, I digress. So this is a article by, it's called the Uncredible Halo, spelled Hallq. I have no idea how to pronounce that. And it's written by Chris Hallquist, if I'm saying that right. The Ignorance and Dishonesty of Christian Apologetics, Part 2, New Testament Scholarship, and Josh McDowell. But you have to scroll down a bit to get to Josh's, where he's talking about Josh. So I have to go back now, down to where I was before. With that preamble out of the way, I'm going to start my look at Christian apologists and the New Testament with Josh McDowell. I rarely write about McDowell, and it feels weird doing it now. My reason for not writing about him is not due to unfamiliarity. Rather, I've studied his work carefully and concluded it was mostly not worth bothering with. When I first purchased the 1999 edition of Evidence That Demands a Verdict, I very nearly returned it to the bookstore because of how bad the arguments were. And bad arguments doesn't even begin to describe it. The book, he's got parentheses around the book, is largely just a series of quotation that sound supportive of Christianity, which are strung together without any real regard for logic. The section on the resurrection is about twice as long as the section on the historical reliability of the Bible, but assumes not just that the Bible is a fairly reliable source, but that it is nearly 100% reliable. With that strategy, the discussion of the resurrection could have been a single page, but the discussion of the reliability of the Bible could have benefited from being a good deal more thorough. This is especially true since This is especially true since McDowell relies heavily on the argument that the Bible must be reliable because allegedly some details have been confirmed. While a little digging reveals that McDowell's alleged confirmations of the Bible often based on outdated, dubious, or selectively quoted scholarship, you don't have to know that to know that even many works of deliberate fiction incorporate accurate historical details, something critics of Christian apologetics have noted repeatedly. I should note that some of McDowell's later works are even more of a disaster in this regard. In The Resurrection Factor, McDowell skips the discussion of the Bible's historical reliability entirely and just asserts that the reliability of the Bible is obvious, right? The reasons for the unusual features of evidence that demand a verdict are clearer if you can find a copy of the first edition used. The first edition carries the phrase "compiled by Josh McDowell" on the cover and prominently lists the names of the large team of evangelical college students who did the research for the book inside. The existence of this team is mentioned inside later editions, but much less prominently. What seems to have happened is that McDowell's team of college students went through their college libraries looking for quotes that looked favorable to Christianity, handed the quotes over to McDowell, and McDowell organized them into a book without apparently putting much thought into a coherent overall argument. Indeed, the writing process for DAV does not appear to have required McDowell to have the faintest clue what he was doing, either in terms of competent writing or knowing anything about the topics he was writing about. Anyway, he writes, oh wait, I'm going to skip down to another paragraph. In spite of all this, McDowell has been an enormously influential figure. His book have supposedly sold tens of millions of copies. He's been cited as an influence by Christian apologists like William Lane Craig and J.P. Moreland, and Christianity Today ranked Evidence That Demands a Verdict 13th among their top 50 influential evangelical books. The only apologists who outrank McDowell on the list were Francis Schaeffer and C.S. Lewis. Really, Josh McDowell set the standard for Christian apologetics. He just set it very low, very low. His influence can be felt among countless second-rate apologists who insist they've got conclusive evidence for Christianity while clearly not having the first clue about biblical scholarship. I try to pay even less attention to McDowell's imitators than to McDowell himself, but they're hard not to run into occasionally if you pay attention to evangelicalism. Hey, this is me trying to cold read without any coffee at all. So anyway, I had to interject that in response to this guy's comment. Okay, so where was I? The parents didn't have the right to just take their kid out in the backyard and stone them with the relatives at the family reunion. They had to prove their case before the priests. It was, the priests were really, It was a law only for Israel, just like many of their symbolic laws. That's a way to get out of following God's law, the 600 plus laws that there are. Cloth of mixed linen and wool, not eating shellfish or swine, not trimming the beards and such, no working on the Sabbath. The Bible clearly states what that was. It was to make the Jews a peculiar nation under God, to separate them from all the pagan nations. Diet and clothing and days off are a great way to do it without building wall around the nation. Okay, homosexuality was a crime before Leviticus and after it in the New Testament. It is a vile state of rebellion to God, a self-hatred and state of denial in which there truly is no length the person won't go to get more of their sin. I bet that left a mark. Answer to 9. The Bible doesn't teach an all-knowing, omniscient God. Omniscient. One day I'm going to say that word right. The Bible doesn't teach an all-knowing God or a future-seeing God. Yes, excuse me? That is Greek. Why would you even bother worshiping a God if it isn't all-knowing or can see the future? You're saying your God isn't all-powerful? Then why the fuck do you call him God? Okay, I interjected again. Sorry. Okay, Bible doesn't teach an all-knowing God or a future-seeing God. What you believe is not what the Bible teaches. That is Greek philosophy and the Latin words for it, like omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent, and immutable. Sadly, many Christians believe this, but the Bible, he's so knowledgeable, isn't he? But the Bible is full stories and statements from God himself. Whoa! Saying he doesn't know something. He didn't know. Yeah, that's right. Saying he didn't know something. I love this. But the Bible is full of statements from God himself saying he didn't know something. And you follow this God and think he's God. Excuse me, a God who says he doesn't know something is not God. Holy shit, I can't believe this guy could actually say this and he's still a Christian. Okay, where was it? You see, one of the most influential early Christians was Saint Augustine. He was a great philosophy major before he became a Christian. And when he read the Bible, it contradicted what he thought about God, because he had the pagan Greek philosophical idea that what God was like. So he was having a hard time accepting the Bible as real. So his mother, who was a Christian at the time, oh gosh, got the bishop to come and talk to him about it. The bishop said that he just needs to interpret the scriptures in light of Plato and Aristotle, and every place that they seemed to contradict the Greek view won out. The Greeks believed that God had to know everything in the future, because if he didn't and something happened that he didn't know, he would break, and therefore he knew everything. The Bible teaches a living God, one who doesn't know the future other than what he plans on doing. Everything is according to God's divine plan. Okay, so everything, he doesn't know the future except what he plans on doing, and everything is, okay. Answer to 10. If God does exist, and he created man, and this man had a dual nature. I'm sorry, it's hard enough for me to read in the morning without coffee, but then to read in the morning without coffee, somebody who can't write very well. Okay, answer 10, let me try this again. If God does exist and he created man, and this man had a dual nature, that he would live in this world for a while, and after that he would live in another world. How could it be unjust or evil for this God to bring you from the one place to another if he chose to do so? Okay, see, I probably should have my list up of the things, but I did that before, and look how long that video was. It was like 45 minutes long, so I'm trying not to do that. Okay. If you say people without this God would just be doing good like you claim you can do, what if they aren't doing good? Then is it just? It is just either way since none of them were guiltless. Answer to 11. For that, I suggest you watch my series. He has a series where I am interviewed. What? He says what the fuck? Who is this guy? Answer to 11. For that, I suggest you watch my series where I am interviewed by Richard Dawkins, and I show that he is ignorant of all the facts and outright lies just to try to win an argument. I give all the, and then he capitalizes every single letter, scientific evidence for creation. And Richard has nothing but, I say it is a fact. And then his last comment, set your animals free. What right do you have to use them? Okay, so that's from somebody named Juris. We have no idea who he really is, but apparently he's very important because Richard Dawkins interviewed him. What to say to this about this person? How do I respond to all this? I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. I only claim to be doing good. I'm doing evil, constantly doing evil. I think I'm doing good because, you know, I'm nice to people, and I try to be polite to people and put other people's feelings, you know, ahead sometimes of my own, you know, consideration and whatever. It's mostly just me pretending to be good, though, because it has nothing to do with God or the Bible, so it can't really be good, right? Anyway, there's so many things I want to say, but it's like, really? Anybody who managed to get anything from my trying to read this person, which was really interesting, I'd be interested to know how other people would respond to this. I don't want to respond to this as a video because, like I said, it would be another 45-minute video. It might already be. And I don't want another huge long video if I can help it. So, and a lot of this stuff is, like, in my opinion, so incredibly stupid. It's ridiculous. Like, Jesus split time. Yes. Every day you acknowledge his existence when you look at the date. He split time in half. The whole world celebrates Christmas and Easter. Oh my gosh, there's just so many things I could say. And if I face pumped as much as I want to, I'd look like I was a battered wife. So anyway, okay, so this is the end of my video. I just wanted to share this guy's very enlightened comments. Sorry for my inability to talk today. I really do need to have, I had a friend over last night. We had a little bit of wine. So between the fact that I haven't had my coffee yet and the fact that I have a pretty good headache right now, I dare say a little hangover, it's not a good thing for me trying to read, and yet I try. So thanks for watching if you have. Bye.